You have to understand shooting. You have to understand cinematography. You have to understand editing. You have to understand tone. When it comes to drone stuff, you have to understand camera movement. You have to understand landscape cinematography. You have to understand standard cinematography. I mean, filmmaking is absolutely crazy.
You're listening to the Drone Radio Show podcast, the show about drones and the people who use them for business, fun, and research. Hosted by Randy Goers.
Hello, everyone. This is Randy Goers, and welcome to the Drone Radio Show podcast, episode 262. Have you ever wondered how the New York City Drone Film Festival got its start? Well, today's guest gives us the inside scoop. Randy Scott Slavin is an award-winning director, photographer, and aerial cinematographer, and is the founder of the New York City Drone Film Festival. He is a drone expert who is regularly featured on television and in publications around the world. As a director, he is known for his use of cutting-edge camera technology to further the impact of storytelling. Randy first gained attention for racking up millions of television views and YouTube hits for brands including American Express, AT&T, Bank of America, AdWeek, and many others, for which he has received multiple awards. As a surrealist photographer, his work can regularly be found in the pages of Time magazine, Gizmodo, Mashable, The Washington Post, and other publications around the world. In 2014, Randy founded the New York City Drone Film Festival, the world's first event exclusively dedicated to celebrating the art of drone cinematography. It has experienced rapid growth since its inception, counting companies like Samsung, Red, GE, NBC News, Adobe, and DJI as its headline sponsors. The New York City Drone Film Festival includes a dynamic slate of interactive panels, and it hosts thousands of attendees and millions of media impressions worldwide. In early 2020, the New York City Drone Film Festival was acquired by AirViews, the premier website for drone video content. In this episode of the Drone Radio Show, Randy talks about the evolution of the New York City Drone Film Festival, what makes an award-winning drone film, and he gives us some insights into the role of drones in filmmaking. But before we hear from Randy, I want to thank those of you who are supporting my funding campaign. Whether it's $1, $100, or much more, you can help defray the cost of production and keep the podcast going and growing. Go to droneradioshow.com/donate. So let's learn about the New York City Drone Film Festival with Randy Scott Slavin. Let's pick up the interview where I asked Randy to introduce himself.
My name is Randy Scott Slavin. I am the founder of the New York City Drone Film Festival, also an aerial cinematographer myself, and I come from a background of being a commercial director.
Randy, to get us started, tell us about the New York City Drone Film Festival.
The New York City Drone Film Festival, for me, was a split-second idea followed by a billion hours of work. It was just a random idea that happened to me because I want to say at the end of 2013 or the beginning of 2014, my memory's a little bit hazy, I saw a skateboard video by an amazing director named Ty Evans, and it was called Pretty Sweet. And it starts out with a 50 or so second shot that I just could not figure out how they did it. It was incredibly complex. It started out as a close-up of a guy's face, went over a gate, through this corridor. It was just a one-take shot, and it was absolutely amazing, and I just could not wrap my mind around it. I watched it about 1 million times, and eventually I figured out that it was actually shot with a drone. In early 2014, that was not part of our lexicon. It was unknown. Flying cameras were just not really a thing aside from helicopters. So basically, in my research back then, it was like very early DJI stuff, the NASA flight controller, the flame wheel, that was pre-Phantom. And basically, I just kind of started really getting into that stuff. I started building it all by myself, hooking a GoPro to the bottom of it, hard mounting, because I wasn't even like into gimbals at that point yet, and there weren't really that many out there or anything like that. It was very, very DIY. very underground. And that all kind of changed when the Phantom 1 came out. Still no gimbal for that Phantom 1, but it was definitely starting to progress a bunch. And I took my drone at that point and flew it all around Manhattan, which is where I live. And I wound up editing a piece together. And I woke up one morning and there were about 6,000 email notifications in my inbox from YouTube, basically that people had been like following and sharing this video that I put up. And I got all these calls that day for all kinds of news organizations that wanted to show the footage. I mean, at that point, I didn't have any idea about what the regulations were. I was just flying this little white or flame wheel. I was flying this little like toy, basically, as far as the police knew, and getting amazing shots of Manhattan. Police would stop me and they'd say, "What the hell is that? That thing's awesome." You know, that's how early it was. So basically, when it went viral, I was like, I should submit this thing to a film festival, and there were just no other film festivals that had categories that were about drones or for drone footage, and there were no film festivals that were drone specific. So I decided to start it, and I got the URLs on Instagram and on Twitter, and I was like, let's just do this. You know, as a director, I'm used to coming up with an idea and executing it from start to finish. And as far as I was concerned, this was just like that. And I realized that as long as I have a theater and some films to play, then that's all I really need. So I was like, okay, the baseline is pretty simple. And so the film festival was born.
The concept sounds simple, but it couldn't have been an easy thing to execute.
Well, you know, I mean, it wasn't simple, but I mean, it was also fun. I mean, I was doing something brand new, and because it was never been done before, the Drone Film Festival part of it, I could pretty much write the rules. And I mean, anybody that knows me knows I kind of like doing that anyway. So I was just making it up as I go along, and I realized that the most important things to me were that the films be excellent and the experience of the festival be top-notch. And as far as that, everything else was, you know, kind of take it or leave it. From there, every year just kind of progressed further and further with adding various things that I thought were good ideas, or changing categories, things that didn't work in the previous years. I mean, it's always kind of been very, you know, kind of like a trial by fire.
How has the festival changed since 2015?
Well, the film festival has had more elements grow out of it. So we partnered up with the Liberty Science Center, and we started doing a whole day of drones thing that had education and an expo and classes, and some of the categories change and things like that. I mean, I think the reality of the festival and its progression is the most notable is the quality of the films, because drones have become so much more popular and used so much more in all different types of media creation that we're really just seeing a lot more creative uses of drones and filmmakers that really know what's going on and how to use them.
Are filmmakers using the film festival to showcase or break new ground with drone footage?
You know, break new ground is hard. It's like, you know, it's kind of like when people say game changer. You know, it's like I tend to try to use those lightly because I haven't seen anything that's broken new ground in a long time. That being said, films have consistently been excellent and getting better and better every year. And the creative uses, as they see the previous filmmakers and what they're doing, just have been, you know, it's been a kind of a natural progression. You know, that being said, the grand prize winner of the first year, which was Superman with a GoPro by that Corridor Digital, that's one of the best films that I've ever seen, one of the best drone films that I've ever seen. You know, and it could still hold up and still get in and still probably win.
Have the categories of the film festival changed?
The categories have changed a lot. You know, some of the categories have been consolidated. So we used to have a landscape category solo and an architecture category that's solo. Now there's a landscape and architecture category. That's one. We used to have a longer showreels category, but showreels, they're hard to watch and the audience isn't as enamored with that category. So I try to really focus on a few things when it comes to the festival. I try to focus on what, first of all, makes me really, really turned on when I see a drone film. What is really breaking new ground? What's really interesting to me? What elements haven't I seen before? How is the drone being used in a way that's kind of interesting and different? That, to me, is the most interesting thing.
What makes a film worthy of consideration for the New York City Drone Film Festival?
I always want to see things that I've never seen before. I don't need to see very, very high production quality necessarily, but I'd like to see stories that are interesting. I'll tell you what I don't want to see, because it's hard to say what I do want to see, because the most exciting things to me are things I couldn't even imagine, I don't want to see beautiful landscapes with music. I just don't want to see that anymore. I'm just tired of that, I've seen so much of that stuff that, unless you're shooting Mars, I don't want to see it. I've seen Iceland. I've seen every part of China. I've seen every part of the United States. I've seen every part of the globe that you can possibly imagine flown over, and all kinds of stock music that has been put over it. And frankly, I'm just so tired of seeing that stuff anymore that I just never want to see that stuff ever again. At least if you're going to make a video like that of some kind of landscape, put some kind of voiceover over it that's interesting. Tell me about what I'm seeing. Give me some kind of something else to chew on aside from just a pretty landscape. You could just really get just murdered by how boring a video can be, even if it's the most beautiful landscape shot at the most beautiful time of day with the most amazing lighting ever. After a while, it's boring, and everybody does that exact same thing with drones. So that's what I don't want to see anymore. I mean, people feel free to make them, go for it, but that's like the most commonly submitted film, and frankly, the hardest to get into the film festival, because there's so many that are submitted and so few that wind up actually getting in, because just, beautiful shots over music is, it's hard to kind of take a bite out of that and really enjoy it, at least for me. But I've seen every single drone video around for the past, 5 years already. So, or 6 years already. It starts to wear on me, So that's what I don't want to see. As far as what I do want to see, just something interesting, just anything interesting. Tell me a story. Ultimately it's a film festival. It's not a drone festival. It's a drone film festival. Part of what it takes to make a good film is to have a good story,
For the film festival, is one of the criteria that the entire film is shot with the drone, or are drones just one of the tools being used?
Yeah, so the rules are basically the film has to be 5 minutes or less, 50% or more shot with the drone. That rule is not hard and fast, meaning that when it comes to the narrative category, which is more like storytelling, it can be longer. Every film has to carry its length. Actually, that's one of those things where, to go back to what I was mentioning before, if it's a beautiful, beautiful landscape, I don't mind looking at it. But if it's 5 minutes long, forget it, 2 minutes long, if it can carry, it's got to carry the interest of the viewer, And I don't just mean like somebody's mom. It's got to carry, you have to keep your eyes on it and look at it as if, you're the most discerning person is going to be judging it. So those are basically the rules. The show reel category is even shorter, 3 minutes or less. Oh, remember what I was saying before? You mentioned how categories have changed. I mentioned there were consolidation, the shortening of the show reels category for sure. And we also added a cinematic FPV category, because over the past few years, it's really kind of taken off. It's really been a real standout, very, very interesting and fun category.
So what's happening with the festival today? Has the coronavirus affected the schedule?
Well, thankfully, so I decided to move it to the summer, and the date for this coming year, as of now, is July 25th and 26th. It seems like it's still standing. But in bigger news, actually, AirViews acquired the festival from me as a part of kind of building out their particular drone empire. So basically, we're working together now to make the festival happen in July.
How will the partnership with AirViews affect the New York City Drone Film Festival?
Well, ultimately, it's not going to really change the festival that much, because I'm still the festival director. And the AirViews team is, the reason why they wanted to acquire the festival is because they love what it is. And, they flew me out to Minnesota to meet with them and to really kind of brief all their teams. And they're a great team of people who are dedicated to upholding the most kind of important aspects of the festival. I'm excited about it ultimately, because for me, I've been doing it mostly alone for years already. And it's nice to have a team of other people, like-minded people who love drone films and are interested in kind of perpetuating the skills of, the kind of creatives that are in this world.
How many films typically get submitted to the festival?
Well, every year has been more and more. Last year was 650 films from around the world. With air reviews, it's going to be even more tough. So basically, we only show about 40 films. And I don't even think it's 40 films. It's more like 35 because we have 5 still images that we show. So basically, it's probably about 35 films that are shown in the theater. And it's going to be even more difficult because air reviews gets hundreds of thousands of submissions every year. And they're all going to be eligible for the festival.
That sounds like an enormous task. How do you go about in reviewing that many films and whittling them down to a small group?
It's more difficult now with air reviews, and it's kind of a work in progress as the year kind of progresses and we make those kind of judgments. For me, always, it's been a very intimate process. I choose a jury of like-minded creatives and high-level creatives from adjacent industries like the film industry and advertising and things like that. And I'm always the first and kind of last to kind of make the judgments. So I'll do the first cut. I always watch every film. And basically then I kind of have all my judges review it, and they review based on a set of criteria that I send out to them. Creativity, skill level, originality, all kinds of things like that. There's different criteria for different categories. And then I have discussions with them after when they kind of already cast their votes. And then based on the numbers, that's kind of how we do it.
Again, it sounds like a lot of work. And as you say, it's going to be even more of a challenge when you factor in air reviews' reach.
Yeah, what's good about air reviews, though, is they always have drone video of the month, drone video of the week. So they're always constantly kind of sifting through the submissions. And, so it's not like we're starting and we're watching 100,000 videos from scratch to get it done. It's going to start from like a highly curated base that they have already. Not that the winners from the film festival are going to be the previous drone videos of the month or the week. There's a possibility that they are, but ultimately they have a team dedicated to kind of constantly sifting through the submissions, and multiple people on their team are always sifting through and watching every video.
Has leading the New York City Drone Film Festival had an impact on your own filmmaking?
Well, first of all, the biggest impact it had on my own filmmaking is that I didn't have as much time to do my own filmmaking because of the amount of time that I put into the festival. But for sure, I mean, I think in general, it's always very helpful for any creative to be well-versed in the work of people that are on the cutting edge of any kind of creation. And it's been really interesting to constantly see how these film tools are being used and to let that have an impact on my work.
As a seasoned drone cinematographer, and after seeing so many films, are you able to easily spot when a drone is used in a full feature movie production?
Drones are very particular, and drones are also extremely versatile, but for the most part, many films and TV shows are using drones for what drones do best. So if they're using an ultimate arm, if they're using a Russian arm, if they're using a helicopter, it's usually pretty obvious. And drones can do a bunch of those different jobs, but for the most part, when you see them in a film, they're being used by the actual tool that they're meant to be used with. Helicopters are going to be seen for extremely high shots. They're going to be used for very fast moving shots, for very surgically precise car scenes where you're looking inside a car window and then there's some kind of a car crash. Chances are it's not going to be a drone. Even though a drone could do that, it's not really the right tool for it. And frankly, I'm always an advocate for the right tool for the right job. I think to try to make a drone do something that a helicopter does better, why? It's just risking the operator and risking the safety of the people around you. Same thing for other things. For a high static shot, you can do that with a drone, and there's no reason why you can't do that. But for the most part, when you see it in films, they're being used by the actual tools that you would think they'd be used by or created by.
What do filmmakers need to know about submitting a film for this year's New York City Drone Film Festival?
First of all, creation is awesome. Please create because you want to create. I kind of hate when people say you have a deep driving desire and it's the only thing you could do. I mean, I make things because I enjoy the process. I like actually just spending that time doing it. To those that are making for the festival, go for it, do it, give it your best shot. And the competitive aspect of it, that should be kind of secondary. Try to really just do it because you enjoy it. That kind of stuff really shines through with the work. If you're trying to create something to win the festival, to get into the festival, for the love of God, look at all the winners from the previous years. They're all on the website. You can figure out what the through line is. It's interesting work. It's well shot. They're creative. That's, to me, what makes me want to throw this festival, and just do something that hasn't been done before. Figure out a way to take a next step on something, because there's a lot of submissions, and there's a lot of submissions also for those kind of very typical categories. Another thing I would say is that if you want to get into the festival, there are certain categories that are way better to try to get into, and one of those is the narrative category. Very few drone films that are narrative drone films out there. Look at the narratives that have won in the past and see if you can come up with something that's like that, because landscape, show reel category, there's most of the films that are submitted to the film festival are in those categories. So if you want to submit to a category, you're shooting something so you can try to win. Submit to something like the narrative category, tell a really good story. I guarantee you there's a lot less competition in that than there is in those other typical categories.
Most of us will never make a movie. Can you describe what's involved and, more importantly, what's the allure to filmmaking?
Filmmaking is a crazy sport. It's multidisciplinary in the most true sense. In order to be able to be a good filmmaker, you have to understand writing, you have to understand shooting, you have to understand cinematography, you have to understand editing, you have to understand tone. When it comes to drone stuff, you have to understand camera movement, you have to understand landscape cinematography, you have to understand standard cinematography. I mean, filmmaking is absolutely crazy. It's really fun. It's one of those things like being an architect that can take a lifetime to master, if you can even get there, because it requires so many skills. And that to me has always been really interesting. It's always been really interesting to me. I love banging my head up against aspects of this industry that I've never messed with before. And then there are other aspects that I'm not really that interested in, where I try to have a more complete understanding. But, sound design, I can only do so much, and then I hire a professional. So to filmmakers out there, I would say, go for it. It's super fun, very interesting. If you can figure out a way to make a living in this industry, then congratulations, that's awesome. Otherwise, just enjoy yourself.
In addition to running the New York City Drone Film Festival, are you working on any other projects?
Right now, I've been really focusing on getting my directing career kind of really back into fighting shape again. Now that I've sold the festival to AirViews, I'm taking not a back seat, but now we have so many more hands on the festival, I can really kind of delegate more. So I've been able to take on some more music video projects, take on some more commercial projects. I've been writing some other things. I've been, just kind of keeping things really kind of open and trying to focus on getting my directing really kind of back up into fighting shape. It's always what I've loved to do, and it's always what my main focus has been. So it's really fun for me to do that.
Is there anything about the film festival that we missed that we should talk about?
If anybody's interested in the festival, I'd say, first of all, keep your eyes on the social media and on the website and whatnot, because of everything going on with Corona right now, things may change in terms of dates, but try to come to New York for the festival. It's an amazing weekend. You get a chance to really schmooze with a bunch of awesome people, a lot of amazing creatives, just a lot of really interesting people in this world. And they're all interesting, multidisciplinary creatives. And you get a chance to see all these films on the big screen. And that's a big deal, because you usually get a chance to just see them on your computer screen or your TV, and to see them in this huge dome theater at the Liberty Science Center is really awesome. And it's fun. It's always enjoyable to be around like-minded people. And that's what the film festival really is. For filmmakers, for people that are interested in learning how to use drones, learn more about different drone technology, people that are, interested in kind of expanding their horizons when it comes to their filmmaking abilities, or who are interested in kind of getting into filmmaking, or who are interested in drones, who are filmmakers already, or people who are into drones who are interested in learning more about filmmaking.
In previous years, how many people have attended the festival?
We usually have between 1,000 and 5,000 based on where it is and the festivities for that year. Every year we've kind of changed it, had different theaters, had different partners. So it's kind of been a little bit like nebulous, but ultimately there's always a good number and it's always packed and everybody's from all over the world and we have fun and party and, it's a good time.
What role can the New York City Drone Film Festival play in facilitating the use of drones in cinema?
The more directors can wrap their heads around exactly what the possibilities are with drones, the more we will see them being used. They're already being used a ton, by the way. We see them in almost every single TV show, commercial, car commercial, film. So that's really great. But it's really, the mission of the festival to kind of show all these producers and other filmmakers what the possibilities are, what the best drone filmmakers in the world are doing so that we can really kind of up the level of how camera motion is being kind of portrayed and being executed by drones. I think there's a lot of really interesting uses for drones. And I think that the more educated the filmmaking professionals are about the possibilities of drones, the more we'll see them being used and the more we'll see them in films, not just in that very traditional kind of 100 feet up in the air, kind of raking across a landscape, but the more dynamic uses. And drones are extremely dynamic and they can really bridge the gap between all the other typical filmmaking tools like Russian arms and ultimate arms and jibs and cranes and helicopters and all that other stuff.
And my final question, Randy, what message would you like to leave regarding the New York City Drone Film Festival?
I'm constantly inspired by the filmmaking, all of the people that submit to the New York City Drone Film Festival. It's in its 6th year now, and the level of craft is just so high. It's amazing to watch. I would suggest that everybody comes to the 6th annual New York City Drone Film Festival. It's going to be in later 2020. And come see the best drone films in the world on the big screen. It's going to be really awesome, and you get a chance to hang out and learn from like-minded folks.
That's it for episode 262 of the Drone Radio Show. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Randy Scott Slavin and learning about the New York City Drone Film Festival. I want to thank Randy for taking the time to speak with me. If you want to learn more about the New York City Drone Film Festival, or want to connect with Randy, check out the website at nycdronefilmfestival.com. Remember, this year's festival will be held on July 25th and 26th, with film submissions due by May 25th. If you like the Drone Radio Show, please consider supporting the podcast with a small donation. The content is always free, but for as little as $1, you can help defray the cost of production. To donate, go to droneradioshow.com/donate. And thanks for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I hope you'll listen to more episodes of the Drone Radio Show podcast to hear how others are using drones for business, fun, and research. For the Drone Radio Show, I'm Randy Goers.
This has been the Drone Radio Show podcast. More information on today's show can be found on our website at www.droneradioshow.com. If you're using drone technology for business, fun, or research and would like to share your experience on the show, please visit our website and fill out a guest appearance application. And don't forget to follow us on your favorite social media channels.